On another exciting episode of the Animation Deliberation podcast, we have our sights set on a crosshair episode of Bad Batch. We're going to talk about that and much more right after these ads we have no control over.
Hang on tight, we don't know how this one's gonna go, but sing along if you know the words. A 1, 2, 3, it's time for Animation Deliberation, a conversation and a celebration of our favorite action animated series. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, welcome back to another episode of Animation Deliberation, the podcast where we take action animation seriously and obviously not too seriously. We are your hosts. I am Zahir Ali.
I am Andrew Rogers.
Joining us is one of the hosts of our sibling podcast, Source Pages, Ms. Hayley Hobbs. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. My ears aren't bleeding at all from Andrew's singing.
I'm so
Jason
sorry.
Lee's song. I'm just kidding. You did a great job. And I declined, so.
You
All
smartly
props to you.
declined because, realizing 5 seconds before the recording that I had to sing it in the Star Wars fashion was not helping anyone.
You pulled through very well, though. I'll
was
give you props
amazing.
for that.
Thank you.
All right, we are back with another episode of Animation Deliberation. Scoots is not here today because he has missions to attend to in a galaxy far, far away. So we are happy to have Hayley fill in because as we were talking yesterday, this was an incredible episode. We have a lot of good things to talk about. Before we continue, what are you guys up to with Source Pages?
Well, we're doing a lot of crazy things at Source Pages, including reading all 100 plus issues of Secret Wars, including
Nice.
every tie-in. So we have done 2 weeks of that, and this coming week, we're going to take a break from that with our friend Andrew over here. We're going to talk some Shazam comics for that interesting looking movie that's coming out. And then we'll maybe go back to Secret Wars. It just depends on what Marvel decides to do with their shows, because they're just kind of like leaving us hanging.
Yeah, because at some
Of course,
point you
I think.
have to get ready for Secret Invasion, right?
Yes, and we talked about reading all of Secret Wars or all of Secret Invasion, and we decided to go for Secret Wars. So we will
Yeah.
not be reading. It's like 80 plus issues of Secret Invasion. So yeah, it's awesome. We're having a great time.
I just want to know where you guys came up with the crazy idea of reading 100 plus issues and covering all of them. Because, I was thinking about reading it all to get ready for the movie, but you actually, dedicating it is an impressive feat.
The beautiful brain of Brian V. Klein, I guess.
The good news is that Source Pages reads these comics so that you don't have to. So if you guys want the information for anything coming up in Marvel, Star Wars, DC, and whatever other additional projects they decide to add on, check out Source Pages, a reading collective anywhere you find your podcasts. And now on to Star Wars. Very exciting episode. We've had our irks with this season about the meh episodes and how the good ones are really good, and we wish all of them would stay that way. We got some feedback that we're going to read off, and then we'll hit you with the synopsis and tell you what we think.
So Andre Sparks wrote into us with our first feedback email here. Hey guys, just watched Bad Batch episode 12, and that had to be the most heartbreaking episode I've seen of this show. Like showing what happened to the clones is something I never thought we'd see, and now I'm just heartbroken. Can't wait to hear your theory on this doctor and how the show will end. Keep up the good work. Andre Sparks.
And as always, if you guys want to share your thoughts, I cannot talk today. Animation Deliberation Podcast at gmail.com, or slide into our DMs on Facebook and Instagram, Animation Deliberation, or Animation Delib 1 on Twitter. So this is Season 2, Episode 12, The Outpost. We're going to hit you with the synopsis.
Crosshair is assigned to Lieutenant Nolan and travels to a remote Imperial outpost on Barton 4 under the command of a clone named Mayday. The outpost is attacked and 2 cargo crates containing classified cargo are stolen. Nolan orders Crosshair and Mayday to retrieve the stolen cargo. The 2 clones eliminate the raiders and find the stolen cargo, which is Stormtrooper armor, but an avalanche forces the 2 clones to abandon the mission. Mayday is fatally injured and Crosshair carries him to the outpost, but Nolan refuses to provide a medic for Mayday, who succumbs to his injuries. Fed up with Nolan's arrogance and disrespect of the clones, Crosshair kills Nolan before losing consciousness. Later, he wakes up in a Mount Tantus medical room where Amir Kar orders him to cooperate with her if he wants to survive as he undergoes a procedure.
So we talk about kind of the ups and downs of the show, and episodes like this make me want them to have a spin-off Crosshair show, but then they would probably just put a bunch of useless stuff in there that would piss me off. So I'm glad that they gave this isolated Crosshair episode. It was fantastic. It's everything I love about the Bad Batch as a show. And I think it held to how much we liked episode 3 of the season 2, which was I thought was the first episode that like really perked my ears up. Uh, as usual, we talk about how great the sound design and lighting is, but the story, the emotion, the intensity, all of it was incredible. I loved every second of this episode. I'm not sure I have a bad thing to say about it. Hayley, you want to share with the people how you texted me once you saw your favorite scene this episode?
Yeah, the whole ending part. Gosh, Crosshair's been through it at this point, hasn't he? And
Yeah.
he's really starting to look like it too. He's really gaunt. He's thin. He doesn't sound good. He doesn't have the same kind of snottiness to his voice. And so to see, such a unbeatable clone beaten down like he was, and then
Mhm.
that, can I curse on your podcast?
Sure.
Go ahead.
That shithead mofo. I edited myself on that one. Nolan. I was like, I texted you and I said, please tell me Crosshair pops a cap in this guy's ass. And then later, I was like, yes, kill him.
I
I don't
cheered.
condone violence. Let me just say that. However, that guy had it coming.
Honestly, I usually don't root for it. It's like, okay, get this person out of the picture. This is the first time I was like, Crosshair, just shoot the guy. Like, literally just kill him. I don't care anymore. So that, yeah, I agree. To have that happen was such a moment of triumph for all of us. But Hayley, how have you been feeling about the whole season, not just this episode? I'm really curious. I don't know if you've been listening along with us. I wouldn't blame you if you haven't, but we haven't been the most positive over the past couple weeks. So I'm curious, are you in the same roller coaster with us?
Of course, I've been listening to you, first of all. How dare you even pretend like I wouldn't? I've been more, I know you guys kind of have the spectrum here on your podcast with the three of you. And Andrew, I tend to fall in line more with your viewpoint of the show.
Oh,
I know Zoo's gripe is that it's episodic, but it's an episodic show. And so I don't mind it because it does remind me of the Clone Wars a lot. There are some real stinkers in the Clone Wars. Let's not act like there aren't. And there's been a couple, that are like, okay, that was nice. Don't need to watch that one again. And then there's been, this one and the episode of last week's and the beginning stuff that was also good. And of course, I loved all the episodes where they focused on Tech because he's my favorite, just like Scotty's. But overall, I have enjoyed the focus on it's been very focused on the individual clones of the Bad Batch, right? Here's Omega. She's growing up through, she's like, what, a teenager now at this point, maybe?
Probably.
Maybe.
give or
And look
take.
what she's going through and what she's gone through. And how she's dealing with that is
Mhm.
hard, right? And so I think that that's been their main focus of the series this season. At least that's how I'm interpreting it. And then how she relates to each of the Bad Batch members. Not so much Hunter, which we saw her relate with a lot in the first season, and not so much Wrecker, but with Echo, who she terribly misses now, and with Tech, who everyone complains he's not emotional enough, but Omega connects with him now, and she understands his emotions.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's what they've been doing most of the season. And that's why I don't really have a big gripe with it because I like that kind of thing. But yeah, this episode was like killer.
The big thing with the comparison to Clone Wars is something that I've really thought about. And I think the reason that it bothers me more on this than it ever did with Clone Wars is because Clone Wars was like more Disney XD at the time, and they had these really long seasons. So it made sense to kind of have those filler episodes because you know that you're getting a lot of content. But when we knew that this was going to be like 8 to 12 episodes, it irked me a little bit knowing that they were keeping it short and they were going to keep it 15 to 20 minutes. And that when it comes to stuff like that, filler episodes bother me a little bit. And I do get the character development and this and that, but there is a part that's just kind of like are we making the best use out of the time that we have in a sense?
Yeah.
And it could be, I've said this like early, maybe episode 4 or 5, where if the stuff that we saw that I thought was filler and episodic pans out to something and I watch it again and I'm like, they did a really good job of setting that up, it'll be worth it. But in regards to like a weekly, trying to make sure I watch this as soon as possible, that's where like a little bit of the disappointment has been here and there. And I absolutely loved last week's episode. I was actually surprised the way that it ended, that they actually deviated from the team. I thought it was going to be a continuation. So now I'm even more excited that we had two incredible stories that have future consequences that come to it. So I was like, ooh, when is this going to tie in now?
Yeah.
Because like now we're building something. Now it's like keep that steam train rolling, because I'm excited to see where the last maybe 3 or 4 episodes I think is left, where those are going to go, because now like we Crosshair is an antagonist that works with villains. He's not necessarily a villain himself, and this is the first episode that's really kind of reminded us of that in a sense, because there is humanity. There is like nobody knows who's a good guy and who's a bad guy right now, because to the Empire, the rebels are the bad guys. To the rebels, the Empire are the bad guys. To us, the Empires are always the bad guys, but like in the world of Star Wars, people don't know that yet. So the fact that Crosshair had to disobey orders for the first time and like truly see that, like it's sad how he had to experience it. Like it sucks enough that he lost his brothers in the Bad Batch, but the clones themselves were always his brothers too. So to see what his essentially friends and family are going through to the scale that the Empire doesn't even care if they die off is really heartbreaking. And I can't give enough credit to the writers for just how well done this episode was.
I think it's funny, Zoo, that you and I always get to the same place, but in different ways. Because I see what you're saying, and like, yes, I want to get to that end result too. But Dave Filoni is a master of building worlds, just like
Yeah.
George Lucas was. And all the things that you're wanting to get to, we wouldn't be able to without some of these, albeit, slow episodes.
Yeah.
Some even in the first season, some even from the Clone Wars, like Zillow Beast, holla, and and so it's I see what you're saying, because I agree with you, but we're coming at it from such different ways, and I love that,
Yeah.
because like I don't know, I'd love that that's the diversity of thought when you're watching this kind of
Yeah.
thing.
And we
Yeah,
talk about like weird gray area. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Neither of us have to be right or wrong in how we feel about this.
and that's why we're cordial here. It's a deliberation, not an argument.
It's
But
in the
yeah,
name of the podcast.
it is. Come on. I do think at the end of the day, the first season just kind of left a bad taste in our mouths, that those filler episodes were just filler episodes. Like, not many of those middle ones paid off for many things. Whereas this season, it feels like there's a lot more of those things that are, the pieces are coming together. And like, I already have my thoughts about what this doctor's going to do to Crosshair, and I think it was set up earlier in the season. So I do think there's a lot of those things that it's like, oh, this is going to make sense at the end of the day. But like you said, it's Filoni. Like, my single favorite story arc in Clone Wars is Domino Squad. And that arc took place over like 2 seasons. Like, they didn't come out in chronological order. They did them completely randomly. And then it turned out to be like, again, my favorite story in that entire show. So there is always that hope of, we're going to double back on things. We're going to make them make sense. But yeah, I think it's just a time will tell. But I don't blame Zuhair retrospectively when he lost hope 2 weeks ago and was like, nope, I give up. I can't do this. And then him coming back is not like, you're crawling back. It's like, oh no, they actually gave, what rebellions are built on. They gave you hope finally.
Nice pull.
I'm making it up all as I go. You could see that there was something happening there, but I didn't know what it was either.
We plan things on this podcast since when?
No, never. Why would we plan out who's going to say what when?
Then it wouldn't be a deliberation, though.
No, not at all. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting also to just remember how good of people the clones are to a fault in this episode, because the first thing that I thought when they popped open those containers and it was stormtrooper armor and gear that they could have been using this whole time was like, if that was a human being, those crates were getting opened like 2 days after they arrived on the planet. Just like, ooh, I wonder what this is. There's nobody here to keep track of us. So the fact that they were still following orders enough, and it was to their own fall at the end of the day just layers that in so much harder than the fact that the Empire didn't care, but the fact that they were trying to still be the best soldiers they could be.
Good soldiers follow orders.
Yeah, that good soldiers follow orders line, it's layered, right? When we first start to hear it, it's when a clone is chip is misfiring in his brain, basically, and it's something sinister. And here when Mayday says it, it's something sad because, like you said, it could have helped them, but he was following his orders because he's a good soldier, and it was the end for him in the end.
I mean, according to Rex, their stuff is pretty crappy compared to what the clones got, so would it have helped?
Better than rags, which is what he's wearing.
Side note, can we talk about how great Mayday's beard looked?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I get
He
that
has,
it's an
like,
animation,
the
but
undercut going.
and they have like so many different looks, but the second that his helmet came up, I was like, damn.
Yeah,
What was
no,
the
that,
good-looking one in the first season in the Hera Syndulla episodes? Oh, what was his name?
oh, was it Wolf?
Hauser.
Hauser.
Yeah.
Quit making these clones so sexy.
That's how they draw you in, Hayley. My eyes were glued to the screen. I didn't want to watch anything else this week. It was great.
I'm already in, Filoni.
Yeah, his haircut was on point. But yeah,
sure.
I definitely love the beard at this. His introduction with Nolan being like, "You're supposed to be guarding this outpost. What are you doing?" It's like, "Oh, sorry, everyone died. We've been asking for help.
Yeah.
Weren't really getting anything." And then the fact that they didn't want to like allocate resources to get the cargo that they wanted, it's like, nah, just the two of you should be fine. Don't mess it up.
Yeah, Nolan really
Oh,
made me think this week because one of my first thoughts at the end of this episode was, wow, the Empire hires the worst people. Like, I think you legitimately have to be an asshole to get hired by them. And then
humans suck.
but then I actually took a step back and really like, and this might be digging way too deep into it, but this is where my mind went, that like it shows the fundamental flaw of the Empire is that you have to be a dirty cut and a cheat in order to move your way up the ranks, because how many of them are killing each other, how many of them are selling each other out and getting the other ones sent to prison so that they can get the next promotion. Like, it's just so built on lies and corruption and flaws. Like, no wonder this guy is at the top and in command. And it was just like, I don't know why it took this to be the weird revelation of that's how we got here, but it was just a complete blow me out of the water moment of like, it's set up without ever speaking the words, and that's super cool.
It's a little more accurate to real life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's extremely accurate. It's extremely accurate.
You look at the scenes at the ISB and Andor and how cutthroat it is and how backstabby it is, and it's like, that's corporate America right there. Yes, it is.
But I do think it's interesting because a lot of the time when they were showing the Senate, there was still corruption, but it was a little bit more idealized. Whereas this is full on, you can't do anything right or you're going to die.
Yeah, politicians and military. It's pretty on point. Man, especially having Nolan kind of being like the fresh officer too.
Mm-hmm.
When he was like, "Oh, I'm commander." It's like, "Oh, but I'm in charge. You listen to me." It's like, how many missions have you been on? How many have you led?
Yeah.
Go do your job. It's like,
yeah.
oh yeah, I've heard those stories.
Just the simple line of "you're not in uniform" told you everything you needed to know about the character.
What a douche.
He's a shiny.
My God, just talking about him just makes me smile with how he died over and over
I know.
again.
I mean, it wasn't quite violent enough, but at least he's dead.
I think it was the fact that he saw it coming. Like, Crosshair could have shot him in the back, but
That's
instead
true.
he let him turn around. You got to see the look in his eyes, and then Crosshair shot. Like, that's kind of cold.
I mean,
That's
it was really
Crosshair.
cold.
It was.
It was
Oh,
literally
jeez.
and figuratively cold. And I felt that cold. The environment was so well done, which I know you guys have been talking about all season. And but man, when they were like when he was digging Mayday out of the avalanche, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
it's not
and
just
when there
because
was
it's cold in my basement, it's just cold in general.
when they were sitting behind the rock and Crosshair was like shivering the whole time, like trying to keep him close, I was like, dude. There was a lot of diversity with the music in this too. Like when they were fighting together, changing to when they were trying to get it out of the avalanche, and then the music just when Crosshair was contemplating like what to do, when he's thinking, "Do good soldiers follow orders?" At that point, like we always acknowledge the music and the sound design, but I feel like the diversity of the music was very unique this
Yes.
episode.
Yeah, they played a lot with emotion, and then as always, we point out the music, but the lack of music, shouted just as loud right after the avalanche when he was trying to dig him out. There was zero. You just heard
Mhm.
him panting and breathing and digging through the snow, and like I didn't expect him to pull Mayday out. I thought it was just the end in that moment.
Well, yeah, he doesn't want to carry dead weight.
The
Ugh.
I'll
foreshadowing
be
of that
sure
was
not to
too
die on your
much.
watch.
Ugh,
Ah,
it hurt.
this show is so good.
I think the sound design was probably super intentional because this is a pivotal moment for Crosshair, right? He's changing his mind. He's not doing this anymore. He's done. And I'm sure that had a lot to do with the changes that they decided to make for his music and the music and sound in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounded almost like there were two scores crossed when he was making his decision, so I'm wondering if that was like the regular Sinister one with some sort of season 1 or like Bad Batch group kind of mixed together to be like, "Oh, he's got to figure things out now," which
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we love that storytelling, but yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about the avalanche, but the scene where the avalanche happened, I feel like that was just them flexing on us with the animation. Like the fact that they had that overhead scene in the mountains where it hung there for like 10 seconds so you could take it in. I was just like, yeah, this is stunning. Like I want this as a poster on my wall. This is one of the most we say this every week it seems like, but this is the most beautiful episode that they've done somehow some way.
Reminded me of Mulan.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That's a good
Yeah,
call.
that
Just
is
high definition Mulan.
high def, but I feel like not that the animation went down over the last couple weeks, but I feel like they put a lot of the budget here. Like this kind of felt crisper, and I don't know if it was because of the lack of color and snow that it felt like not so much that any of the movement changed, but just like all of the edges seem so clean on everything. And I'm wondering if that's just a color contrast thing more than an actual like animation thing.
I think it is impressive to get depth with just white because you have to pay attention to flurries and how the wind is flowing and stuff like that. So I get that this stood out in uniqueness, but I don't think that any episode so far has been lacking per se. I think this was just different as opposed to being in a cave with a very precise like lantern glow.
There have been lots of times in all of the episodes this season where you do think you're looking at real life. It
Yeah.
truly doesn't look
Yes.
like animation. In this one, it was when Mayday was tamping down the mine that Crosshair stepped on,
Oh, I
and
Oh
forgot
just
about that
his
yeah.
scene.
hands doing that. Like I thought, this just looks like real life. This is absolutely insane.
I forgot about that scene. That was so well done. Like I was on the edge of my seat during that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Like
like we
you
know he's
knew.
gonna be fine, but what's happening? It's like
But
I'm
is
just
he?
gonna go behind some walls. Like you don't believe your plan, and it was like, no, I believe in it. Just not stupid. I'm gonna count to 3. If I don't hear a boom, it worked.
So good.
Oh,
Yeah.
the dark humor of somebody who's just accepted that they've lost it all is just the best dialogue. Like I feel so sorry for them, but I love every bit of their dialogue.
Oh yeah.
R.I.P. Mayday.
R.I.P. Mayday. They gave
Deserve
him
better.
all of the uh, doubt that Crosshair needed to hear about the Empire and about what's going on, and it's kind of like Zoo. I think you and I were talking about this earlier today when somebody else says it other than the people close to you,
Mm-hmm.
it resonates with you more. And for
Yeah.
some reason, with Mayday, that's what happened with Crosshair, plus
Yeah.
his death and stuff. But he was planting those seeds in him the whole time. It wasn't
Yeah.
just that he died that Crosshair decided this probably isn't for me.
And it's even funnier in this scenario because he literally has the same face and voice as Hunter, but for some reason it resonated more with Mayday.
Ooh.
It was the beard.
It was a beard.
It's the beard.
Wrecker's got to grow a
respect a
beard.
man with a beard.
Uh,
I gotta grow mine out. Maybe Andrew will respect me a little more from time to time.
maybe.
Oh, baby faith.
A nice full one. Yeah.
Well, my problem was that I got a new trimmer and I accidentally kept the setting too low. So I accidentally shaved most of it off the other day, but it's been a week, so it's mostly back.
Great commentary for a audio-only podcast format.
Yeah.
He's telling
Hey, follow the
truth.
Instagram. Maybe I'll post a picture of my beard just for you guys. Just for following. How many followers do I have? Should I set a
Sure,
goal? Like,
Zoo,
if we get a
sure.
certain amount, I'll put selfies up of my beard.
Write into us if you want to see Zuhair's beard.
This is definitely that audience.
It might be, for all we know.
My one TikTok of me shaving my beard got 10,000 views in like a week. So
What?
I'm not kidding.
This is why I'm not downloading TikTok. It's weird.
The algorithm gives you what you want, Hayley. It's perfect.
I believe you, Andrew. How about that?
All right, so we have 2 episodes in a row with creepy researchers. How do we feel about the end of that episode?
It's the same group of researchers, correct? Like, we saw this
Seems like
doctor in the other episode taking orders from the main doctor, Jimmy Simpson, there.
Love his voice.
Oh yeah, Jimmy Simpson was great. But yeah, it's the same group, and I'm really curious what, like I said, I have my guesses as to what they could be doing, but I don't know if it lines up with the fact that they have the like head of the cloning there. Like, that's what's really throwing me for a loop, is are they trying to clone Crosshair again? Like, as you said, he's gone. He's getting old. Is this really what you want to use for like more soldiers in a way? Or like, yeah, what are we trying to do?
Well, if they're trying to get Omega as well, maybe it's like taking the best of both, making a version of that.
The dexterous skill and then the mental and physical capabilities of someone younger.
What do you mean by the first part? Would you say
Like,
dexterous skill?
Like, Crosshair's pretty dexterous. I mean, yeah, he could hit a target from 2 miles away.
Yeah.
Off a mirror. Like, it's pretty good.
Sorry, I just never heard that word before, so I was trying to get more context out of it.
Dexterity, like mobility, quick movement. Yes, dexterous.
Gotcha. I learned word today.
Put
But
up
I
the
was
more
thinking
you know
more of
banner.
like, because the value in Omega is she's just kind of like the pure genetic code that they need to make more clones, right? Like, that's her value.
But
We
they
still
don't want to make
know
more clones.
Yeah, we also still know so little about Omega.
I think they don't want to mass produce clone. I think they still need lackeys with chips in their brains.
We also still need a way to clone Palpatine.
Right. That's, I think, the true goal with all of the cloning at this point. I think Crosshair's there just to draw the Bad Batch in so they can draw Omega in so they can get Nala Se to do her thing. Because that was the setup in the last episode. So are they going to mind wipe him and draw them in that way? Are they going to pretend to be torturing him while really torturing him and bring them in that way? I don't know. But I think he's just going to be, I think he's kind of going to be the MacGuffin to get the rest of them to come, simply because they want Omega to motivate Nala Se.
So,
I've been wondering where the crossover was going to happen, and I like that.
So my guess is not only are they going to go to save him, they're going to have to fight him. They're going to turn him, if we remember the like assassin clone that bit down in the electric cyanide from earlier in the season, I think we're turning Crosshair into another one of those. And now there's going to be something that has to happen, some sort of confrontation of like, what did you do to our boy? And how that goes down. That's kind of my guess, but yeah, it's the cloning part that it still feels like we're all just kind of like, shows back up so they have Nala Se to clone and like nothing else beyond that. But I don't know.
I don't know if I want them to wipe him or to keep him the same and he gets to reunite with them and be redeemed.
I want a second.
I can't decide. And it doesn't matter because they'll do whatever they want.
Yeah, I also think I can't decide at the end of the day, because as much as we've talked about the stakes aren't super high that the Batch are going to die, we never see nor hear anything about the Bad Batch ever again. So they all could potentially die at like any given point.
Or
So
retire.
they could also retire. But I'm just like, there is that weird, they could just kill any of them off. They could say, oh, we're going to give them a redemption arc, and then they show up and Crosshair's dead. Like, there's all sorts of weird options when it comes to that side of things too.
There's also always the potential that Omega survives and we see her in live action somehow with Boba Fett for some reason.
That's the
Because
one
Star Wars.
character that I'm surprised has not shown up in the show. Like, my fingers are crossed for Hondo showing up, but I'm surprised that we haven't seen a Boba Fett.
I'm okay with not seeing him.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how they would put him in.
It would feel very contrived.
They're kind of the same age, right?
Same-ish.
We don't know that. I mean, we don't know that for sure, do we?
I mean, if you just think about like the age Boba Fett was at the end of Clone Wars versus how old Omega is at the start of Bad Batch. Because I do know there was like a deleted scene from the last season of Clone Wars where it was like Boba Fett versus Cad Bane, and like I think a bunch of the clones were there to witness it. So in my head, it's just like, oh, they're holding that in their back pocket somewhere of like, well, he's got to do it at some point.
Yeah.
I don't need it, but I'd be interested to see like how they would do something like that. But that would be funny if it was just Book of Boba and just old Omega comes in to see old.
It would be
Boba.
it would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we also have the live action. No, we don't.
Ahsoka.
There's Ahsoka. For some reason, I thought there was a Rebels live action happening, but I don't.
Yeah,
think
Ahsoka.
It's in Ahsoka.
Yeah, true.
That's true. So yeah, maybe there's something
You're not
there as
wrong.
well.
They're gonna be looking for Ezra.
Was it last week that the Purgils? Oh, that was Mandalorian. Never mind.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to
so
bring up, and I was
exciting.
like, yeah, that little Rebels Easter egg that was in the first episode of Mandalorian made me so happy. I was like, wait a minute, I know what those are.
It was the Leonardo DiCaprio meme, but it had Ezra's head on Leo's body pointing at the Purgil.
Oh, that's funny.
It was so good.
That's great.
That Leonardo DiCaprio meme is just perfect for all occasions of watching any property these days, where it's just like, Easter egg, I got that one. There it is.
It's very versatile. It's very dexterous.
Now you're making me question if it's actually a word, and I like spouted it off. Okay. Thank you, Hayley.
I assure you.
This is what happens when you leave us to our own vices, is the three of us never know which one of us is actually correct on anything.
If only there were something out there that could help you know.
Yeah, like, texting you. Google. If you don't know, then I Google.
See, I feel so like special to be held up next to Google.
Yeah. The reason we don't have video, Hayley, is because they would see the amount of time there's one of us frantically Googling the answer to a question when one of the other people asks.
You don't have to be frantic. You just like slyly do it on your cell phone, like.
I've kind of given up on that. Sometimes like I just want a louder keyboard just to be like, I'm doing this for you, listeners.
I can do it. I got the mechanical keyboard right under the microphone. We can make it happen.
But then the ones who actually email us and like give us the corrections and stuff, I'm like, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for being that invested.
Yes. The Andres, the TJs, the Fabians of the world. Thank you. Thank you for being our support system.
It's hard to remember things. I've learned this now in doing these podcasts. I'm like, it's really hard to remember things on the fly sometimes. You might know something inside and out, and the moment comes and you're like,
podcast amnesia is a thing. It is truly a thing. The minute you're in front of the microphone, like, all things go out the window. There was stuff that I wanted to talk about last week with the Demon Slayer movie, and I was just like, nope, never came up, never talked about it. Was a big point that I had like ready to go.
That was like my friend Ryan's podcast I was on. We were talking about Ant-Man, and at the beginning we were like, oh, we're going to talk about MODOK, and then we totally forgot. And at the end we were like, oh, quick, about MODOK. Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
You want to plug that podcast while you're at it?
Yeah, what was
that?
that?
Yeah, that is Across the Bifrost, the Mighty Thor podcast. My friend Ryan Doze is a Thor enthusiast in his words, and he's very knowledgeable about the comics and all things Thor related. He's also had some amazing guests on his show, like Michael Giacchino, who, if you don't know who Michael Giacchino is, he has scored tons of Marvel properties and many other things as well, and he did Werewolf by Night as the director. And he also has a great interview with Jason Aaron, who wrote the Mighty Thor. He created the character of Jane Foster as the Mighty Thor, and he's written tons of Thor comics and Avengers comics. So yeah, please go give Ryan some love. He's got a lot going on over there, and he's a great podcaster.
I just want the listeners to know I'm watching Andrew do his frantic Google that we just mentioned.
I'm like, I'm following it right now because I was like, wait, he actually interviewed Giacchino? What in the world? Like, so yeah, this is me going to listen to that because it's one of those friends of the podcast. I follow all of the things from the Animation Deliberation account to make sure that we can reshare, but my podcast feed is really backed up, so he just
You'll like it, Andrew, because he's got a lot of comic book writers and artists as guests.
And that's the thing. I've listened to a couple of them. I just don't like cycle through, so I need to really double back now.
You dirty casual, you.
I am the filthiest of casuals.
Scuzzy.
I just think of scum and villainy, like just Star Wars words.
Star Wars words. They didn't exist before George Lucas pinned them.
They didn't. But I don't know why scum and Star Wars like really go together in my head. I can't tell you why.
Well, it's a wretched hive of scum and villainy. That's why.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Out here in LA, there's actually a place right on Hollywood Boulevard that's themed after the cantina called Scum and Villainy. And it's it's a fun little spot.
That's fun.
Yeah, I mean, this universe being out for 40 plus years, it just ingrained in your brain throughout generations.
Probably was the first time that I heard those words at such a young age.
It's probably your first phrase. Rebel scum.
You're scum. What does that mean? I don't know.
It's a twap.
It's a twat.
I got a bad feeling.
Is this why I haven't been allowed on your podcast in a long time?
That's exactly why we appreciate you being on it.
Because we've gotten way off track.
We're still talking about Star Wars. I don't know what you're talking about.
We can keep talking
the conversation, the feedback ended about 10 minutes ago. Now this is just like, what's up, y'all?
This is what a conversation between the three of us is like.
Yup. Oh my gosh.
Yup.
I'm like, there's no more to say on that topic. It's just laughter and crying. If you're still with us, thank you for this.
On that note, Beyond the Bifrost, Source Pages, a reading collective, and anything else that you can find on strandedpanda.com. Give all of us the love. We appreciate it greatly. Give us a 5-star review if you love our show, because I don't think you'd be listening to us if you didn't. So show us some love, help us out, help us find new people to love us and for us to love back. We appreciate the feedback. We appreciate all the support. And follow us on the socials.
Yes, like Zuhair said, you can follow us on all of our social medias. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Animation Deliberation, and on Twitter at AnimationDelib1.
Miss Hayley Hobbs, anything else you want to plug for the people?
Yes, after you give Animation Deliberation a review, pop on over to Source Pages and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and you could be entered to win Scott Lang's book, Look Out for the Little Guy, which is coming out seriously for real in September, and we're going to give it away to one lucky listener who gives us a great review. So,
do it.
That's
it from the three of us this week. Tune in next time. That's TOONIN. As always, stay whelmed.
And I'm laughing too hard to come up with a bit, so until I have better thoughts, muscle.
And I just got peace out tonight.
Thank you for listening to the Animation Deliberation Podcast, a proud member of the Stranded Panda Network. If you would like to contact us, you can email animationdeliberationpodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter @animationdelib1. for this and other great shows, you can visit strandedpanda.com or join the great community that is the Stranded Panda Chat Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/svchat. Tune in next time, and remember, stay whelmed.